All right, let's dive into something really fascinating today. We're going to look at a statistical paradox from inside the Catholic Church that, well, it pretty much flips a totally logical assumption on its head. So let me ask you a question. What do you think is the most common path to becoming a Catholic saint? You'd probably think, well, most Catholics get married, right? So logically, most saints should be married people. Makes sense. But let's see what the numbers actually say. Okay, first things first, let's just wrap our heads around the scale we're talking about. There are 1.3 billion Catholics around the globe. I mean, that is a huge number of people. And for this massive group of people, what's the most common vocation? It's marriage by a long shot. We're talking about almost 1.9 million Catholic weddings happening every single year. It's the default path for most. Okay, so what about the other major path? Becoming a priest, a nun, or a monk? Well, their total number worldwide is about 1.2 million, and get this, that's their total population, not how many join each year. It's a tiny fraction in comparison. And this chart, wow, this really drives the point home, doesn't it? Look at that giant bar on the left. That's the laity, everyday Catholics, most of whom are married. They make up over 99% of the church. Now look at that little sliver on the right. That's less than 1%. That's all the priests and religious figures combined. It's not even a contest. All right, so the population numbers are super clear. The vast majority of Catholics are laity, mostly married. But this is where the story takes a really unexpected turn. Now we're going to shift our focus from all Catholics to that very small, very special group, the canonized saints. So this brings us back to that logical question, right? If over 99% of Catholics are married, then the list of saints should probably look kind of similar, shouldn't it? I mean, you'd expect most saints to have been married people. So, is that what we find? Just so we know what we're working with, the total number of canonized saints is pretty significant. There's no single definitive list, but most estimates put the number somewhere between 7 and 10,000. And here it is, the big twist. This table just completely flips everything we thought we knew on its head. Look at this. Marriage, the path for almost everyone, makes up only a tiny fraction of the saints, maybe 5 to 10%. And the consecrated and clergy life, that tiny group, less than 1% of the population, they make up the vast majority of saints. We're talking over 90%. It's a total statistical reversal. This chart really visualizes that shock. Just think back to that first bar chart where the laity was this huge dominant block. Well, this is basically the mirror image. That massive slice of the pie, that's all the saints who were priests, nuns, and monks. And that little tiny sliver, that's all the married saints. It's wild. Now, I want to be clear here. This doesn't mean there aren't any married saints. Of course not. They definitely exist. We have some amazing, well-known figures like Saints Louis and Zélie Martin, who are actually the parents of Saint Therese of Lisieux, or you've got Saint Thomas More. But as a group, statistically, they're just a very small piece of the puzzle. Okay, so this has to lead us to the big question. Why? Why is there such a massive, lopsided difference? And the answer? Well, it's not that one path is holier than the other. It's got everything to do with history, with the process itself, and maybe the biggest factor of all, who was keeping the records. We can really break this down into 3 key historical factors that explain this whole thing. First, there's the canonization process itself. Second, there's the simple fact of historical record keeping. And third, and this is really interesting, there's a trend that's actually changing right now. You see, the process of becoming a saint has always been, well, it's pretty formal. It's almost like a legal case. You need tons of documentation, writings, witness statements, records of a person's life. And right from the get-go, that created a kind of built-in bias in the system. And this really shows you what that looks like in practice. On the one hand, you've got religious and clergy. These folks lived in institutions, right? Monasteries, convents, places that were literally built to keep records. Their letters were saved, their life stories were written down. But then you have regular married people. They might have been living incredibly holy lives, but they were private lives. There just wasn't an archive in their house to save everything for future historians. But here's the good news. This whole situation isn't set in stone. It's changing. While history definitely favored priests and nuns, in more recent times, the church has been making a real, conscious effort to promote the sainthood causes for lay people and married couples. The idea is to show that holiness can be found anywhere, in any walk of life. And that trend is definitely growing.
So, what's the bottom line here? After seeing this complete statistical flip-flop, what should we really take away from all this?
I think this quote really nails it. What we're seeing in these numbers is all about historical patterns. It's about the nuts and bolts of the sainthood process. It is not a theological judgment saying one vocation is holier than another. It's about the process, not the person's piety.
And that leaves us with a really cool thought to end on. As the church keeps promoting the causes of married men and women, and as our modern world makes it so much easier to document everyday lives, well, these statistics are absolutely going to change. So you have to wonder, what will that pie chart of saints look like 100 years from now? And who really will be the saints of tomorrow?